Welcome to the Abundance Effect, where we empower ambitious women with practical tools to live their most rich and fulfilling life in business and beyond. I'm your host, Larisa McCook. Let's get started. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you. We have been getting some beautiful reviews and phenomenal feedback from the Abundance Effect, and honestly, that means so much more than you know. Today, I want to share what two of our beautiful and brilliant listeners wrote. Maureen wrote, "Mindset snacks. Love these snippets. Short enough to complete during my commute or doing a chore. Energizing and concise to remember and implement. An amazing supplement to her Abundance Academy programs or just as a standalone." Thank you, Maureen. Nadia wrote, "Pearls of wisdom. I always get something out of Larisa's podcasts. I've been doing personal development for a long time, and Larisa has a beautiful way of pulling out the best parts and making them meaningful and practical to do. Love this podcast. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to leave these reviews. I am so grateful and so blessed to have you in our lives. And those of you in our community, thank you for showing up and listening each and every week. Now, if you have been listening and you haven't yet left a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, I would love to invite you to do that. It truly helps the podcast get even more reach to the people who really need these conversations. So let's get into today's episode. If you're listening to this in February, especially here in Canada, there is a good chance that you are feeling it. The innovation of January has worn off. Winter feels way too long, and you might be wondering why things that felt doable just a few weeks ago suddenly feel so much heavier. So today's conversation is for the woman who isn't burnt out, but isn't exactly energized either, who is not falling apart, but also not thriving in a way that she knows she is capable of. It is not about pushing harder. It is about understanding what this season is actually asking of you and how to respond wisely. So we're going to talk about a few things today, and I am so excited. First, why white-knuckling winter quietly backfires. We're going to look at why healthy aging is not something you deal with later, why so many high-achieving women struggle to listen to their bodies, and how to do a February reset without having to start all over again or beating yourself up. This is going to be so good, super practical, and super valuable. Now, to have this conversation properly, I love health stuff. I am a health nut, but I want to make sure I have someone here who understands both the science and the lived reality of high-performing women and works with this material every day. And I've got a guest. Her name is Jocelyn Hill, and Jocelyn is Canada's very first board-certified health and wellness coach. She's got more than 20 years of experience in personalized and preventative health. She works with so many high-performing professionals to help them reclaim their energy, sharpen their focus, and build daily practices that support not just success right now, but healthy aging over time. So what I really respect about Jocelyn's work is that she bridges this gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it with precision, with empathy, and most importantly, real world practicality. So Jocelyn, I am so glad you're here. Welcome.
Thanks, Larisa. I'm so excited to be here.
So let's start here. February can feel really deceptively hard for a lot of women, especially those who are capable, responsible, used to pushing through, doing it all. And from your perspective, what's actually happening in the body and nervous system that so many people just misunderstand?
In my experience, honestly, people start the new year in January and they have such good intentions. Maybe they've picked a word for the year and they're just so keen, but often they go too big. They try to go from 0 to 60. And what does that look like? Maybe they're going to commit to getting their 10,000 steps in. Well, that's hard to do if you haven't been walking. And back to like the time of year, you and I are in Toronto. Well, if you commit to 10,000 steps and you don't have a treadmill and suddenly, it was minus 20 here yesterday, what happens? Suddenly.
I had 2 days of many fewer steps. I meant to go outside, But I was like, I have to finish these projects. And somehow the gods of my husband saying it's minus 20 and me finishing projects didn't get my 5,000 to 10,000 steps in that I commit to.
So just a fun thing that a lot of people don't work through. Like, that's a really good intention. Get more steps. And by the way, it doesn't have to be 10,000. The latest science shows that it's much, much less than that. But what does it look like for you? You know, in February, where do you want to start?
And so I think a lot of capable women often misinterpret this as like, is it maybe like a discipline issue? Is it not a prioritization issue? Right before the call, we were talking, you're like, some people know things are important, but they're not necessarily urgent. And how do we actually even determine where to start?
I think it's a really good practice to really think through your intentions. What does better look like? Why is this change important? Why is it important right now? How do you want to feel? Because you're going to be challenged. And what I was going to say a couple of minutes ago in terms of the 10,000 steps, often, you know, if you're faced with a cold, you know, dreadfully cold, dark morning, what's the backup plan? What's backup plan B? And if that falls through, what's backup plan C? And I find most people don't think those through.
So you mentioned, what does better look like? I really, really love that question. What does better look like? And I know it sounds like a simple sounding thing, but often I ask people, what do you want? What's your dream? What's your desire? And people are like, I don't know. And it's like deer in headlights. And it sounds like a simple thing, but it can be really intimidating if you actually don't even know where to start. So let's say someone's like, I actually don't know what better looks like because I've only had it this way. Does better look like what I saw on Instagram? Does better look like what I saw on Facebook? Does better look like what I saw on Pinterest? Like, I don't know. Is it a social media thing? Do you Google better? Like, how do you even know what better really means to you? I think a big thing is us getting to know ourselves better than anyone else. So how can someone navigate through that question?
I think it starts with, how do you want to look? How do you want to feel? So it does start with being, I love to use this word, like, be visionary. How do you want to look? What's that going to feel like? What clothes are you wearing? So if you can start to visualize and get a clear picture in your mind, that's super, super helpful.
I love the idea of like making it concrete with clothes, or even when I go shopping or do vision boards, I'm like, I always look at other people. I'm like, what are they wearing? How are they put together? What are the possibilities? And there's one particular boutique. I won't mention it. I happen to walk by and look left every time I go to the Starbucks while my son's in coding class. And I keep looking, I'm like, what outfits do they have for this next season? I'm like, I'm not going to look. I'm not going to go in. But every few weeks I go in and I'm like, oops, I didn't mean to buy anything. But I got this inspiration because I got some ideas from an external source. And then I tried them on. And I think external inspiration is really great, but you actually have to try it on. Sometimes you don't know if it's going to work for you because you don't even know if that's part of your life. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
I think we have to. I love this. It's something that I learned when I did my coach training, is this idea of, it's a really experimental mindset. Like, you don't have to take on a big goal. There's room to make mistakes. There's room to tweak. So maybe if we go back to the step example, maybe you're going to start with 10 minutes in the morning, and that's it. You're also getting light. It's just but you're going to start there. And you may find that 10 minutes is actually too much. It's still too cold and you don't love the idea of getting out of bed. And so you're going to start with, maybe your happy place is 7 minutes. But that's experimenting. That's setting an intention like, hey, I'm going to get out for 10 minutes upon waking. But it's really nice to reflect and say, how does this feel? Because if you're dreading it, if 2 mornings later, it just feels like, ugh. I really encourage people to check in. Now, it's not that we should not get out of our comfort zone, because it's not easy getting out of bed when it's minus 20. But if you're really resisting, maybe it's too much for your nervous system right now. There's something really nice about making micro shifts, and it's better to start small and expand, get some momentum, and expand. You could start with 5 minutes and go to 6 minutes in the morning and then get up to 15. Better to do that than start with 20 completely, that's it. I can't do this. I'm not a morning person. Much better to have that morning win.
Yeah. And I love that. One of the things I started doing about a year ago, I realized I'm sitting way too much. So I found a 10-minute metabolic reset at 2:30 something a.m. on Instagram. I bought it. I don't necessarily like the trainer. I don't even, the program is good. It doesn't hurt my body, and it's 10 minutes. So every morning I commit to doing a 10-minute wake my body up workout, no matter what. And it's not for the workout, it's to wake me up and give me energy. But then, June, I met a friend. We went for a long walk. He's like, I do 15,000 steps a day. I'm like, that's not possible. I drive 3.5 hours a day. I have a kid that goes to school on the other end of town. And so I'm like, well, I can start with 5,000. I'll aim for 10, but my minimum is 5. So all summer long, all I did was look up. I took my phone everywhere. I'm like, how many steps? My son's like, Mama, how many steps? How many steps? So I was step obsessed, but that was the only thing I forced myself to. I did other things, but that was the big addition. And so I did that. And then September, I got a trainer. Now I've added going to the gym. But I think the biggest thing is because I started with one tiny challenge or one tiny something, it's stuck. And now it's really a part of me. And I've never actually been that strategic. I always used to just dance or do something that was in my schedule. I never had to actually be independently reliable to organize my movement routine. That was just like so foreign to me.
But you bring up another great word, which is strategy. And I don't think, in business, that word gets used a lot. People understand it. I don't think people apply it to their health. Like, where are you today? What is going well? How are you feeling, really? And then actually thinking about it, as you said, we're going to be in February. What do you want to start doing? What do you want to stop doing? What worked well in January? What do you want to continue doing? Even that exercise, the sort of start, stop, continue, forces you to reflect and look at objective data. You could actually, whether you're looking at steps or hours slept, a lot of people now have wearables. And that's a great way to keep yourself honest. Whether you're tracking, cups of water or steps or hours slept. It's, what gets monitored gets managed. And that's what you were doing in the summer.
Yeah. And I love that. So I've had my phone, but we don't use wireless earbuds. Yeah. We use corded earbuds. We're big on things like that. So we will use the phone because that's pretty much where the world is. We don't have a landline anymore. But I don't like EMFs. I don't like extra things. And we actually stopped using our Fitbit because I was like, I felt like I could feel something on me. So I love this idea of the Aura Ring or other wearable devices. But can you maybe talk about that? Like, am I going crazy that even though it's convenient, because I love data, it's so exciting. Another part of me is also conflicted with, is it worth it? I think,
this is such a personal choice. I've been in the wearables business for a long time. I've been tracking for many, many years. For me, the pros outweigh the cons. And there's a lot of things that you can get from wearables that, quite frankly, you can't get from pen and paper, sort of the old school way. Having said that, there is lots to be learned by tracking. When did you go to bed? When did you wake up? How did you feel upon waking? Do that for 7 days. You may be walking around thinking that you sleep 7 hours a night. Track it for a week or 10 days. You may be shocked to learn that you're getting 6.5 hours a night. And, if you've been following health trends for a while, or if you're just getting interested in health now, sleep is a superpower. So, and again, it doesn't have to be high tech in terms of how much deep sleep are you getting, how much REM, how much, restorative sleep. Most people know when they wake up what the quality of their sleep was. So I don't think wearables are for everyone. And you can certainly do a great job with tracking without committing to a wearable.
Okay, thank you. Even just you saying that makes me want to at least open myself up to the possibility. I felt conflicted, but I haven't done the work. I haven't done the research to come up with my own opinion, but at least now I'm
Yeah.
I'll go in with a different mindset.
Like a fun
and explore that.
experiment would be, I'm going to commit to getting up at the same time for a week. That's what sets your circadian rhythm. And it's a really powerful exercise. It's not when we go to bed, it's when we wake up in the morning. So if we're going to be consistent with anything, it's when we get up in the morning. And just learning that, oh, it's so interesting. So you can see when people are walking around and they've got major brain fog, if you were to look back over your week and go, oh, holy shit. You know, I was up for my son's hockey practice on Friday at 5 a.m. I stayed out late Saturday night and slept in till 10 a.m. Like sometimes our sleep schedule over the course of a week is all over the place and we're wondering why we're not feeling fantastic. So you can be sleeping 7 hours a night, but if it's like you're in different time zones every night, it's going to affect you.
That is so powerful. I want to have you back at some point for a whole sleep thing. We're going to do a whole session on sleep because this is so incredibly powerful. Now, sleep, eat, move, these are basic things that we all need to do. One of the things I've realized is I worked in a Pilates studio for many years, and a lot of our clients, they would pay attention to these things, but I was younger and there were a lot of other young people there. And, you know, when you're young, you only pay attention to what's required and what's necessary. When should we start thinking about these, I don't know if we want to call them preventative practices, health practices, like when do we start thinking about healthy aging?
The sooner the better. I have a 21-year-old daughter and that's ideal. You know, we start aging as soon as we're born. So I think the old model was you start thinking about healthy aging when you hit 40 or 50. What we do know is that women age more between 40 and 49 than any other decade. So if you can get ahead of that, if you can take control of the aging process in your 30s or 40s, you're going to have such a smooth transition to menopause, or at least a smoother transition, regardless of your family history with the kind of menopause your mom had or your genetics or anything else. And most people don't realize that. I used to work in a menopause clinic for a number of years. In my experience, the people that struggled the most were really powering through their 40s and not paying attention to their lifestyle.
Quick pause, because if this conversation about health, energy, and realistic resets is landing for you, I want to invite you to something really timely. This week, I'm hosting a Rewire Your Morning, Reinvent Your Life masterclass. It is a free 90-minute reset designed for high-achieving women who don't need another fresh start. They need a smarter one. If January didn't go exactly as planned, you are not behind. You don't need to throw your goals out. You just need to recalibrate how you're starting your day. And this masterclass is about aligning your mornings with your real life, your nervous system, your energy, your health, and your long-term vision, so that momentum actually becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. There are several days and times to choose from, and whether this is your first time or you've joined me before, I'm going to be sharing some new tools, new techniques, and a few surprises I haven't taught publicly before. If today's episode is making you think, okay, something needs to shift, this is the perfect place to do it. And so what are some of the key things, like when you think of preparing for healthy aging, what are some of the key things, like if you were going to tell someone your top 3 things that you must put on your list?
So strength training is no longer optional. It's not that cardio is not important, but we reach peak bone mass at age 30. And even though you can increase bone density as you age, you want to be building up your bone density and bone quality before the menopausal transition, because we actually, estrogen starts to dip in our 40s and we're losing bone. So you want to get ahead of that with a foundational strength training routine. So just don't wait. Whatever you're doing today, you can build on that.
Beautiful. I just this past weekend, we were skiing and I got hit by a skier. Someone skied into me. I went tumbling. And I thought it was very interesting. I didn't get hurt, so I'm very grateful for that. But I was really grateful for all the movement that I've been doing. So I have started strength training, like strategically going to the gym. And so I'm a lot stronger. I also did some parkour classes with my son. So just organic movement, tumbling. I started doing acrobatic-y things, but I used to have this fear of falling. And because I didn't have that, I remember as I'm like, I see him ramming into me. I'm like, I see him coming. And like, I turned my head and he was right there. But I rolled with it and I didn't react. And I got up and I felt okay. I was really grateful that my body, like I didn't have time to think, but my body felt okay moving into a different plane. Why? Because of this random little work that I did before. Fun things with my son, exercise and pull-ups at the gym. Like they're little things, but they matter when you don't have time to think.
And that's essentially what we're doing. It's a gift to our future self. So the movement piece is no longer optional, and ideally it includes strength training. Another thing that really shifts, I've worked with a number of women who they were eating clean, they were sort of doing all the right things, and still were hit with 20 plus pounds of weight gain in their 40s and 50s around menopause. And some people have never really embraced food as medicine, that approach, incorporating more functional foods in the diet. I've seen hundreds of food logs over the years, and I can tell you most women to this day in 2026 are not consuming enough of the hormone superfoods like broccoli and cruciferous vegetables. So these foods that literally help clear the bad estrogens from the body, that becomes even more important if you decide to move forward with hormone replacement therapy. So a lot of people now, they're like, okay, I don't need to worry about my lifestyle because I'm taking estrogen and progesterone. It couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm taking HRT and I'm still embracing my diet and lifestyle. I think that's a really important point. So, foods are very functional. Blueberries, wild salmon, sardines, olive oil. Like there's a number of foods that are very, very beneficial for women, for our hormones, for our skin. I think that how we eat really affects how we look, feel, and function, and definitely how we age. So, yes, you're going to do the resistance training for bone health, but my goodness, there's so much you can do in terms of feeding your bones. So that's another very important thing to think about.
I love
and
that.
Again, don't wait, because exercise really is beneficial in terms of how we look and feel. But I will tell you, like, what happens in the kitchen goes a long way in terms of that lean body composition as we age. And I can say that from experience. I just turned 56, so I've been embracing this approach for a very long time.
Well, you look fabulous. Totally fabulous. Now, so what are some of the biggest myths that women have about aging?
I think the biggest thing with
energy?
aging is that they just associate, maybe because of their mom or sister or girlfriend or colleague, that aging is associated with decline, when in fact it couldn't be farther from the truth. There is a way to grow stronger and healthier and more powerful as we age, and it's not, drugs or quick fixes or anything like that, but it is around the new science of aging and the power of lifestyle medicine and mindset and identity and habits and all this other good stuff. But this story around, of course I've got arthritis, I'm 52. You've got to be really careful if you're hanging out with women who think that aging is all about the down.
No, thank you.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Put the earmuffs on.
I always say
earmuffs,
I want to be leading, retreats when I'm in my 90s. So hang out with people like us, essentially. That's how we have a vision that's very different than a 90-year-old in a nursing home. I think that's really important.
One of my favorite uses of Instagram is like people in their 90s and 100s working out at the gym. And I'm like, oh, they're so cute. There's such good inspiration. Or you see these 70-year-olds that at 60, they had this beer belly, and at 70, they're sideways vertical on a pole with a six-pack. And I'm like, husband, do you see this? Look at this. This is amazing. Anything is possible because they took initiative, and we're not all going to be at that level or that extreme necessarily, but you don't have to stop. Yeah. Like some people start running or doing marathons or training in their 80s. I remember I worked in a Pilates studio, and there was one woman, she was 92 when she first started working out. She was so scared because she's 92. She's coming to a Pilates studio, and I last worked with her when she was 95, and then I had left. But I was like, 92, and she's like coming to work out, so she has more exercise. Wouldn't come in before noon because she's like, I need my beauty sleep. She got up at 10, but she knew where she stood. She came a couple times a week and she got so strong. She came in fragile and then she got upright in her 90s, so much better. Movement in her spine. It was so great to see the improve in balance, but we often think, like you said, we're too old to start. And I had some really great examples working in that industry because I was like, wow, these people are really young.
Yeah. I think one other shift that people can make, and it's not talked about enough, when we hear a lot about stress management and resiliency, but for some people, especially busy professional women, when they think of relaxing, it might be just watching a show on Netflix in the evening before bed. And I would encourage people to think about active relaxation, which is different than sitting on a couch watching Netflix. That could be meditation. That could be, doing some deep breathing. There's actually a great book that came out a few years ago. It actually details the 7 different types of rest that women need. I mean, there's physical, mental, sensory, spiritual, 7 types,
Okay, I'm looking that up. 7 types of rest. I got to write that down. Thank you.
I've worked with a lot of women who are quite proud of the fact that they hit the pillow and fall asleep within 5 minutes. And that to me is a sign you're exhausted. If they had found moments in the day to sort of recharge, then they probably would not hit the pillow and just crash like that. Very often we're physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted at the end of the day. Like our battery is at 3%, basically.
I'm going to seriously evaluate my sleep. I thought it was okay. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay a lot more attention to this. It's serious. So one of the other things that we've talked about before is a lot of high achieving women, they struggle to really listen to their bodies. You're smart, you're self-aware, you're growth oriented, you do all the things, you know all the things, right? It's all on social media, it's on ChatGPT, you've tracked your macros, but why do they have trouble really listening to their bodies? Can you talk about that?
It's something that was not passed on from our mothers. But so many women that I meet today are actually burnt out. They don't know the signs of being physically. So if they're super irritable, they're snapping at their kid, they're not recognizing that they're already like their system's overloaded. So they're not recognizing some of these little things, being tired or canceling plans or not feeling social. Like, how do we pause throughout the day, throughout the week, and say, I'm going to cancel that dinner tonight? I think it's sort of paying attention. Your body whispers before it screams. So even with respect to, getting a cold, if I'm chatting with someone, very often before the scratchy throat, there were signs. And it's one of the things I love to do is helping people learn how to listen. It's kind of a mindful approach, but there were signs, but they didn't pay attention. And I think it is a practice. You're not going to go from walking around on autopilot to being this completely mindful being. But that's the one thing I will say. It's a practice. So you can start where you are, just doing a body scan.
Growing up, I didn't have awareness. I was aware that things were wrong or they didn't feel good, but I didn't have tools to make them better. And I look at my son this morning. He woke up and his nose was stuffy and I was like, what do you want for breakfast? Yogurt? He's like, Mama, why would you offer yogurt? I have a stuffy nose. He already knows.
Incredible.
Stuffy nose means no sugar, no dairy. He knows this and he's 8 years old. Like, he already makes those choices. We've learned these things over time, but the fact that my 8-year-old kid can self-diagnose and make smart choices and sometimes go, what are you thinking? I was thinking, I know the yogurt's not good, but I need you out of the house fast. And I'm like, how about the grain-free granola without the yogurt? He's like, that's a better choice, Mama.
So if I hear a client say, it's interesting, I never used to get headaches, and now I find I always have to have Advil or Motrin or Tylenol in my purse, that's something we're going to pause, because it could be just from chronic dehydration. So at least pausing, it's okay. I'm not saying you should never take Tylenol. Like, how wonderful to have something that's effective within 20 minutes. But it's not sustainable to keep taking Tylenol and to go from taking once a month to 3 times a month to a couple times a week. We want to pause and go, why is this happening?
And so what's the cost of staying disconnected long term?
Sometimes it shows up in terms of chronic conditions. If we're lucky, it's just annoying symptoms, really bad PMS, which is going to get worse if we are avoiding those simple lifestyle practices that we talked about. That's a good thing because your body is sending you a message like, I need more love and care. You're avoiding me. Or another common thing is people start noticing in their 40s that they have, rosacea in the cheeks or something like that. Be grateful if your body is sending you a signal like that. PMS is getting more severe, skin is acting up, because the other extreme is a scary diagnosis. So, a lot of people in their 40s start to notice, hair thinning is another one. It may seem like a minor thing and seem like a cosmetic thing, but it's often linked to pretty significant nutrient deficiencies like iron and vitamin D, and it signals that something's off with the gut. I don't just ignore, if someone, even a girlfriend, mentions that they're getting significant hair loss, that is time to pause.
That's huge. And even just when you said that, I look at my health now, it's so much better than it was 20 years ago. But I always used to have really thin hair. It's not dramatically thicker, but there's definitely better quality, better tone, better thickness, better fullness in my hair.
There's a lot of fancy treatments today that you don't need to start there, but it's definitely time to pause and look at, how am I eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, connecting, relaxing. It's not telling someone, you better eat your broccoli, but if you can get people excited, and I always love to see this, if by the end of a call, through techniques like motivational interviewing and coaching techniques, someone is convincing me why they need to make a change. That's very powerful. So they have really taken it on. It's not coming from me, it's coming from them. And I think that's what is so different about the coaching approach.
Beautiful. So if you were to give us some guidelines, give us some coaching for how can we do a February reset? You're like, most people suck in February because they don't have realistic goals in January. They don't take the time to do a reset in February, and they just go about the year however it works. So if we were to be really intentional about saying, okay, this is a time where I'm off track. I'm not completely off track, but something's not working, but I don't want to start all over again.
Getting outside. Ideally, a few minutes of light exposure. If it's before 10 a.m., that would be awesome. But it could also be at lunchtime. It could be in the afternoon. And it's something that doesn't come naturally to people, especially those who are in Canada. As we were saying, it's very, very cold. I would also, as much as possible, unprocess your diet. It's amazing how many people, so as opposed to telling people, eat more vegetables, just look at what you're eating and you'll be surprised that it's more processed than you think. So good things happen when you unprocess your diet. You feel better, your gut tends to be healthier. And if you're so inclined, add 1 or 2 servings of vegetables a day, and it's a very, very powerful shift. Start there. Start with 1 extra serving. And the other thing I would say in terms of February, have your vitamin D levels checked. If you're not already taking vitamin D, it's a pretty important supplement. So many Canadians, despite all the awareness in the past 5 years since COVID, are very, very deficient. And it has such a powerful effect on mood and hormone health and inflammation. That would be a very powerful shift to make. So yes, light exposure, move your body inside, outside, however makes sense for you, even if it's like dancing in between Zoom calls, stretching, you have a practice that you love. I think, an extra 15 minutes of sleep would be awesome for most people. It starts there. If you committed to those 4, what I would say are micro shifts that I just talked about, 10 minutes of light exposure, 1 extra veggie, or could be 1 extra glass of water, 10 more minutes of movement, and go to bed 15 minutes earlier, you will see a shift. Most people do. So I think the reason I like this conversation is that I'm not asking you to go out and invest an hour, but over the course of a day, if you can just get clearer on some pretty small tweaks to what you're already doing, I can say with almost like complete certainty, there'll be a shift in how you look and feel.
When we first launched the podcast around the new year, I did an episode about 5-minute miracles, which are 5-minute like mindset snacks or mindset tools. Like what can you do in 5 minutes or less that will make a dramatic shift in your day? And so maybe it's journaling or meditation or other things. But we have all these tools in our toolbox that we fail to use. But if we just pull some of them out and use them on a regular basis, the morning routines we do will carry throughout the day. We stay calibrated and we stay on track. And so it's the same idea. It's like 5-10 minutes at a time makes a world of difference, because that's going to give you an hour or 2 hours of productivity, of effectiveness, of better choices afterwards. I mean, I love working out an hour at the gym, but I'm not going to do that 5 days a week. I just don't. The thought of it just is like, ugh. But I love walking. I do walk into -20. I love the walk. I'm a walker in the middle of the dark, going to the gym at 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock. I go there for an hour. I go twice a week, and then I work out with my trainer. But in between, I do these little things to keep me going, these little things to keep me pumped up.
If you see yourself and identify as being, like in my case, a healthy, powerful ager, you really embody that super ager mentality. Well, what does that person do? Well, of course, they pay attention to how they eat, move, and sleep. So what the research shows is that making shifts in more than one domain is more effective. You're going to get more of a momentum shift faster. So as opposed to putting it all into green smoothies and ignoring the sleep and the movement and the gratitude, if you can pick a couple that appeal to you, go really small, and just start. And be prepared, as I said earlier, to experiment and tweak and refine and keep going. They just, it's such a small habit, but some people really struggle. That same person will take on a whole fitness routine, no problem. It makes no sense. Like, they can't floss their teeth every day, but they can go from couch to 5K, just easy peasy. But that's what's so interesting when you do this work. It's very, very personal in terms of what gets us up in the morning, how we get motivated, how we stay motivated, how we fight through the messy middle, which is a thing.
Well, this has been super, super valuable. I have loved our discussion. I feel like I'd love to dive even deeper into many of these things, but we're definitely going to have you back for a sleep episode. If you guys are interested in having Jocelyn back for anything else, let us know. Reach out to us in the community. We'll make sure that there is a way to contact us in the chat. And I know that you might want to contact Jocelyn, because she may have just rocked your world like she has mine. Sleep is going to be the thing I'm a little more aware of this week for sure. So if you do want to, if someone wants to reach out to you or contact you, how can they do that?
So I love helping people get clear on what's working, what's not working, so for some people, what we were just talking about in terms of those tweaks, it's really obvious, like, oh, I'm going to start here. Some people, they don't know where to start, and they're feeling overwhelmed by just the thought of picking one. If that's you, you're a great candidate for this complimentary reset call that you're talking about.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll make sure to get a link to everything and put that in the description of this video. So that is such a gift. I know every time I talk to Jocelyn, I always have a notepad. I mean, I always have a notepad for everything, but when I talk to her, I take a lot of notes. I've taken lots during this call. I think it'll be so valuable. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being so generous with yourself, with your time, with your knowledge and your wisdom. And let's continue the conversation. Let's have a healthier February. Let's keep crushing our goals and allowing our health to fuel the rest of our lives.
Just remember the fresh start effect. You can start in the next hour. You can start, tomorrow, next week, next month. You do not have to wait till January 1st or September 1st or your birthday. Just begin where you are, and you always feel free to start again.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. If you're listening and thinking this conversation really resonates, Jocelyn offers a complimentary health aging reset call. It's a short, focused conversation to help you feel better quickly and understand what will help your health in the long term. You can book it at jwellness.ca. If you've been listening to this and thinking, I know what I need to do, I just haven't been doing it consistently, I want to personally invite you to join me for this week's Rewire Your Morning, Reinvent Your Life Masterclass. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to reset your mornings in a way that supports your health, your focus, and the level of success you're actually trying to sustain, not chase. Not about hustle, not about perfection, or adding more to your plate. It is about rewiring the habits and patterns, that internal wiring that quietly shapes your every single day. February is a powerful time to recommit, not from pressure, but from clarity. And this is a beautiful reset, whether you've never been before or a powerful recalibration, even if you have. You're going to find the registration link in the show notes. Choose a day and time that works best for you. Come exactly as you are. Sometimes one aligned reset changes everything.